The breath, video 3. The mechanics of the breathing process then can be observed on a superficial level. We can notice how our body expands and contracts as we inhale and exhale. The torso can be divided into two sections, where you have the upper section, the lung cavity, and the lower section, which would be the abdominal cavity. The lung cavity would be where the lungs and the heart are housed, and the lower cavity, the abdominal cavity, would be where the digestive organs are. And dividing these two cavities is a thin layer of muscle, which we refer to as the diaphragm muscle. So when we breathe in, there's three ways in which we can do this. In order for the lungs to be able to expand, the upper cavity needs to expand outwards. So what many people do is they will expand their chest area, creating a space so that the lungs can collect air on this upper level. In extreme sports, or when we're in extreme need of extra supplies of oxygen, people will raise their collarbone and in that way allow for the extreme upper parts of the lungs to collect oxygen. The third way that we can do it is by stretching the diaphragm muscle. So if we take this to be the upper cavity where the lungs and the heart are, and then we take this to be the diaphragm muscle. The diaphragm muscle ordinarily in its resting position is curved. Now when we breathe in, stretching the diaphragm muscle, we stretch it so it straightens out, and this creates a space in the upper cavity so that it can draw in air. When the diaphragm muscle is straightened out, it means that the bottom cavity, where the digestive organs are, needs to push itself out to create space for all the digestive organs. So when we move the diaphragm muscle, when we stretch it to allow air to come into the lungs, we are putting pressure on the abdominal cavity, so our abdominal muscles push out. The abdominal cavity moves outwards. By stretching the diaphragm muscle, we're allowing a greater quantity of air to move into the lower sections of the lungs, where we mentioned in the previous video there's a greater proportion of alveoli, the little sacs which collect the oxygen. So although there's three ways for us to expand the upper cavity where the lung is and allow our lungs to fill, the optimal way of doing this is by stretching the diaphragm muscle, as this allows a greater quantity of air to be stored in the lungs and we are breathing to our full capacity.